Hi everybody, my name is Anne. Welcome to Art on the Creek. We're in my home studio in Parker, Colorado as always, and as always I'm very happy that you're here with me today. Thanks for tuning in. Whether it's your first time here or if you're a repeat viewer or subscriber, I really appreciate you being here today. We are going to do our beginner watercolor lesson number 13. And today I thought what I would do is an interesting view of Boulder's Flatirons that you may not have seen. Are you ready? Let's get to painting. Well, as luck would have it, I didn't have to go to Boulder to take this picture, nor did I have to hike. My hiking days from where this is located are back stored away in my memories with my college days. But when you hike up behind the Flatirons, there's this really neat view, and I wanted to share it with you today because I love the colors in this photo. So this photo may have been, you know, kind of enhanced color-wise, but I think that's kind of fun to do with your reference photos. You can even do it on your phone. You know, play around with the color saturation and the tint. You might find some new colors that you can paint in that you didn't think would work. So it's a good way to take a favorite photo and change it even to black and white and try to do something in monochrome. But today we're going to paint this. I want to say this is, as you're looking at them, I think this is the first Flatiron. There are 3 of them. And the trail goes, you go up Flagstaff Road and back behind there is a hike, if I'm remembering this correctly. And then you can see this wonderful Flatiron from there. So the Flatirons are rocks that are pushed up geologically. And this is all part of the fountain formation that goes down the Front Range of Colorado. Quite a ways actually. And it gives us Garden of the Gods, red rocks, lots of really beautiful rock formations, and the Flatirons are part of that. So really simple drawing today, which I'm really happy about, and I'm wondering, do I want to tape the edges? I think I do. Any kind of tape will work. This is drafting tape, one of my favorite ones because it's very inexpensive. The other tape you can use, of course, is a washi tape or a painter's tape. Now when you're painting on a block, you might want to just let that tape hang over the edge just a little, because that will keep you from getting paint beyond your tape. For instance, if I were to put it like this, if I don't have that lined up exactly, I might accidentally take a brush stroke and paint right over that. So this will help alleviate that problem, and I'm going to get these as even as I can as far as making the edges even. So the supplies that we're using, I will put everything in the description below. If this is the first time watching one of my beginner watercolor lessons, don't worry, nothing is in order. You can do whichever one whenever you want to. And all the supplies will be listed below. What we're using today are the Paul Rubens cold press watercolor book. This is a 5x7. I highly recommend that you get some kind of cotton watercolor paper. You don't have to break the bank. Meaden has a good one. B watercolor paper is another really good one. This one is very affordable. Anything you can get that's 100% cotton. Art and Fly makes one, I think. So Jen Crafts, just as long as it's got some cotton in it, 100% cotton, you will be much, much happier, and it will be easier for you to learn. The paints that I'm recommending today are Paul Rubens. In the other series of beginner watercolor lessons, I recommended Winsor Newton Cotman. Either one works. In fact, if you're using paints from the school supply aisle in the grocery store, that's fine too. Whatever you want to use that works with your budget. Now when I paint, I don't clean my palette from the previous painting because I might be able to use these colors again. However, this color combo is not quite what I want to go for today. So I am going to clean this and then I will be right back. Your palette doesn't need to be pristine in order to be clean. You just want to make sure you've got a good amount of working space. And I don't know how many of you knew or didn't know this. You can remove the inner portion and have even more mixing space if that's something you wanted to do. So let's get right to it, shall we? Let's see. I'm not going to save that paper towel because it's a little bit worn. I'm just using a regular number 2 pencil here. This is one of my favorites. It's a drafting pencil. And I'm going to put this peak of the flat iron right about here. So that's the first, excuse me, I'm knocking things over. That's the first marker we're going to make. And it's going to come down a little bit, and then there's a slight bump in it. And then it comes down very, very flat. Okay? Right about here, we have the horizon from the land in the distance. This has a lot of sedimentary layers. So I just want to mark some of those. And let's see, now here's where it gets really interesting, is on the tip of this flat iron. It comes down kind of like this, and then the rock comes out like that and comes straight down. And then we have a lot of trees. We'll just kind of make little lines for the trees here. There's a few in the rock up here on this cleft here. And then the mountain comes up this way, again, very steep, and there's more trees up here. Just kind of putting those in for our memory. And then what we really want to do is get a couple rocks in the foreground here. So we have one midground rock, and that one comes up about straight parallel to this, swoops down a little bit, swoops down again, and then there's more trees here, and there's trees here and here. And then we have a rock that comes in right in the foreground. So it cuts across this way. There's a little bit of it here. Comes this way. I'm just kind of drawing wherever I see shadows, ridges, any kind of interesting shape. And then over in here, this is all going to be trees. Now in the reference photo, there is a hiker standing here. We're going to leave him out for today. The brushes that we're going to use are these, the Princeton Snap. I recommend any kind of golden Taklon or nylon brushes that you can find. Princeton is just a brand that I really, really love. Their ferrules are always very firmly attached. That's this part of the brush. The handles are very easy to hold, and I've never had a problem with a Princeton brush in all the years that I've been painting. They have been beautiful brushes. And let's see here. Let's take a look. I'm going to leave my pencil lines like this so that you can kind of still see what we've got going on here. Normally right now, what I would suggest that you do is use your kneaded eraser. And that's one of these erasers that are like putty. And mine hasn't been kneaded in a while, which is why it keeps tearing when I'm pulling on it. But when you pull on them, they will stretch like silly putty, and that is how you clean it and prepare it for use. And then what you can do, if you do get a line that's even just a little bit too dark, you can tap it, or you can roll this into like a little pencil shape and then roll it on here and lighten your lines just a little bit. But I'm going to leave mine on there so that you can see them. So first brush we're going to use today is our Princeton Snap 3/4 inch stroke brush. You just want to use whatever biggest brush you have. And I'm going into my water here. We're going to work top to bottom. So across the top here, we have this beautiful sunset sky. I'll stop here at the horizon line, and I'm trying not to get the water on the flat iron. And you can go behind the trees here, because what we're going to paint is the pinks of the sunset. And those green trees will be darker than that, so we can just paint those trees right over the sunset. Now when you're getting your paper wet for watercolor, you don't want the water to be standing on there with puddles, but you do want a good even sheen. There. And now we're going to go in and start this great sunset. So the first color that I want to use is the purple, and I'm going to use the blue purple that we have, and that's the one that's right next to the cobalt here. So this is called dioxazine violet. And we'll just put a line of that right across here, and also a little bit here in this horizon space. Now this down here, we have not put any water down here. That's okay. Let's see, where else could we repeat this rather than just right across the top? Let's just put a little bit more streaks in. And now for our next color, let's go in and add some of this beautiful orange. That one is permanent yellow. Let's go in there first. And we'll just put a little bit, some more of it over here. Now we can go in to the first pink that we see, which is going to be anthraquinone red. I really like this red. And let's just fill in very lightly in the remainder of those areas. Some bright pink. There's a very nice sunset color. Now right down in here, we need to make it a little lighter, but let's go ahead and connect these. I want to connect that purple sky there a little bit. Make sure I've got everything just the way I want it before I start lifting off. All right, now we can go in with, let's use our number 4 round and just get it wet and blot it off. And then we're just going to go in and lift off some of this pigment to create some white space and clouds. And we're in luck because these clouds are very thin, very wispy, and that's going to make this removal really easy. And if you want to go in and remove just a little bit more, you can certainly do that with a paper towel. And since this is all still damp, this should work just fine. I'm going to pull it and twist it just a little. And there you go. We can blot off just a little bit more of a cloud shape that way. There. I really like the way that's turning out. Now, what we can do is go ahead and get this dry before we go on. And if you don't have a heat tool, I recommend just walking away from your painting for a while and letting this dry naturally. Alrighty, you see that color shift? You can see that when watercolor dries, it does shift a little bit lighter. If we want to later, we might go in and make that a little bit darker, but I really kind of like how subtle that is right now. Now for the fun part, let's go into our yellow ochre. And let's capture some of the light that's on this exposed rock right here. Beautiful yellow, beautiful warmth coming in. And it cuts into the to the rock just a little bit. And this one goes a little bit longer, all the way down there. There we go. And then along this top ridge is very light. And I guess that goes all the way down here. There, and that's our yellow ochre. Now we're going to have fun with this. We're going to go in with a little bit of blue. The blue that I'm going to use is cobalt. I really like cobalt blue. We're going to make this very, very light. So we want to water that down quite a bit. And then I can see just a little bit of a blue tint in the rocks up here like this. Now when I'm painting this, I'm leaving a lot of white space. So let me zoom in so that you can see what's happening here. I'm just kind of following that angle of the rock and leaving as much white space as I can. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and go into the burnt sienna. And this one, let's see, here's yellow ochre. This is, you know, on second thought, let's make that the red iron oxide. Put that over here where we had the purple. It's a perfect color for our flat irons because that's the kind of rock that they're from. Now what I want to do here is some dry brush technique. Let's see if we can get this to work on this rock here. Yes. Hold your brush in the middle and very gently just glaze it across where you're painting. And that will kind of just naturally give you some highlights and really make all of those little areas of snow that are just so speckly, it'll really make it easy so that you don't have to go in there and paint each one. And then on the foreground, of course, same paint. And since I'm right-handed, I'm going to turn this. This one is going to be this way. Use your art supplies to create the effect rather than trying to paint it in there all on your own. There. So once again, we're going to go back to our largest brush, and we're just going to fill in this entire white space with water. It doesn't have to be completely clean. Now with that same large brush, let's go into our hooker's green. I had to do some serious mental thinking there to find it. So we'll make a puddle of the hooker's green, and just so that it's not pure green, take a bit of your dioxazine violet and mix some in there to really darken that up. That will give you a really lovely pine green. Dioxazine purple and hooker's green. And holding your brush vertical like this, the chisel's vertical, yet laying it down just a little, you're just going to tap in those pine trees. And then they spread out more over here because our trees are going to change a little bit in that area. And I'm lifting up my brush just a little bit because these trees are farther away. All right, now for the trees that are spaced in here, we're going to mix a little bit of our yellow ochre with some of the red iron oxide. And while this is still wet, we can just go right ahead and tap those trees in as well, same way. So this is kind of, our wet area is drying a little, but it's still not dry. And you want to make sure that the height of your trees is not the same everywhere. So lift up your brush, move it around as you would have to, whatever you think looks the best. Right about now is when our painting is going to go through the ugly phase. So no worries, we're just going to put some more detail in and get it cleaned up. Now once again, we're back at the number 4 round, and I'm going to go back into that cobalt blue and make it just a little bit darker. And I'm going to just add a little bit of shading here, a little bit more cobalt, to these areas where the rock is blue. And now we're going to go into a Payne's gray, and that one is kind of a blue-black. If you don't have it, you could mix a little bit of black in with your cobalt and do it that way, but I really like Payne's gray. We're going to do some shadows on the rock here, and in front we want this rock face here and this direction. And we'll repeat that just a little bit up here. I think I want to separate this just a little bit more here, so I'm going to come in here and just kind of go under those trees a little bit. There we go. That helps lower that down a little bit. And then for this one here, we'll just go ahead and do a little bit of dry brush right about here. And I'll do the same thing going back into that red iron oxide. There we are. Now for our trees. Since this has all been dry, now we can go back into that hooker's green and mix in just a small bit of purple, and that really just gives us a beautiful pine green. And let's just repeat that process, tapping those trees in And now we can really make some space in between our little taps, because that will let the forest recede behind what we're doing right here. So these darkest trees will be in front, closest to us as we view the painting. Now we'll go back into the yellow ochre and red iron oxide mix. There we go. And we'll just kind of fill these spaces in here. I think that's just fine. I'm going to go back into this Payne's gray and just increase these shadows over here just a little bit. That'll help that rock recede somewhat. And then finally I'm going to go into the yellow ochre and brighten these parts up. Just make them a little more intense. And that is just about all there is to it. So let's go ahead and get this all dry. Oh, you know what I forgot? Silly me. I forgot to do the horizon there. And what I want to do with that is a little bit of this cobalt coming over like this. Still leaving some white space, and then we can go in with some of this green that's in our trees and just put a very tiny bit of trees on our horizon. There we are. Now let's take the tape off and see how it looks. When we're removing the tape, you want to make sure that you heat it up first. No matter what kind of tape you're using, it's always a good idea to heat it up. And we're going to just remove it at a 90-degree angle. So we're going to pull this way. If our edge of paper is this way, we're pulling this way. So you'll see that 45-degree angle of the tape. And that will always ensure that you are going to pull that off your paper without tearing it. Now, if you do feel any resistance at all, just slow down and go very, very slowly. Make sure that you've got that adhesive good and warmed up. If you don't have a heat tool, just go very, very slowly. There. I think that that is pretty good. I think we're finished. And if you really enjoy these lessons, then I would really appreciate, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. And if you are looking for something more than this, something that is a little more detailed, a little more in-depth, you might want to consider a membership with Art on the Creek, because there we'll do full-length tutorials and you'll be able to really get all of the detail that you need to be a very successful artist. And to learn more about those memberships, to become a patron with Art on the Creek right here on YouTube, there should be a button marked Join just under the video, or there will be a link in the description for your convenience, and then you can read about it and decide which membership is right for you, if any. You guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a like if you like this kind of content. Leave a comment or share it with your friends. Thanks again. We'll see you next time, everybody. Bye now.